One of the most unique and interesting prospects I've ever seen ahead of an NBA draft, who could be the key to unlocking the Raptors' half-court offense if they choose to draft him, but was so much concerned about his size. Is he the right fit for Toronto? Well, in this video, we're going to give you everything you need to know about Reed Sheppard and determine if he would be a good draft pick. Let's get into it. Reed Sheppard is coming off of some historical efficiency in his year with Kentucky and possesses some great traits defensively, but with all these great things associated with the player, there still are going to be question marks about his size, and then there are going to be some question marks about whether or not he would be the right fit for the Raptors if they do keep their top 6 pick in the upcoming NBA draft. Over the course of this video, we're going to go through who exactly Reed Sheppard is. We're going to talk about those statistics, those historical statistics at that he produced in college. Then we'll go to his strengths, his weaknesses. We'll finish off with an NBA comparable before deciding if this would be a good selection for the Toronto Raptors. This is Amateur Sports, everybody, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to Toronto Raptors content right here on YouTube. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this video along the way and subscribe to the channel. So much great content on the way for the offseason, including draft profiles like this and an NBA draft lottery watch along as the event goes live. But for Reed Sheppard, let's get into a little bit about the information you need to know here. So the first thing that's going to jump out here about Sheppard is the height. 6'3", and along with the height, the length is not so great here at 6'3" as well. Look, he's a guard. You can get away with a bit of deficiencies in size, especially if there are some certain aspects of their game, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the video, that can kind of mask it. But right out of the gate, yeah, there's going to be concerns about the size and even more concerns about the ultimate length. But Reed Sheppard is going to turn 20 right before the NBA draft, so he's going to be freshly turned 20 when his name is called on draft night. And like I said, he played his season with Kentucky. So let's get into the historical figures associated with that season. Not the most eye-popping statistics when it comes to scoring overall, but still did produce on a decent level scoring-wise with 12.5 points per game. Where the eye-popping stats come are in the efficiency categories and honestly a little bit in the defense categories as well. As a guard, as a combo guard in Kentucky, where he played with a lot of other dominant ball handlers like Rob Dillingham, for example, still managed to average 4.5 assists per game, but had 3.1 steals per game. And on top of the steals here, I didn't add it in, he also averaged 0.9 blocks per game. So, you know, we're going to get to know a little bit about his defense when we get into the strengths category here. But, yeah, he's a smart defender. Where we see the historical numbers is the efficiency. Oh, my God. He shot just under 54% from the field, and he shot above 52% from three on the entire season. More than half of his shots came from three, and he still shot 52% on those. And I never do this, but I had to highlight one of the stats in green here. His effective field goal percentage this season was 67.9. Wow. Unbelievable levels of efficiency. He's been touted as more of an analytical darling. That's a very good thing. Look, he's efficient. He's smart. There are lots of great traits associated with Reed Sheppard, and let's get into more of them here. So for starters, the efficiency is the biggest thing that we're going to be talking about here. So unbelievably efficient, and there is no reason to suggest that this is not going to scale up in the NBA. He's got deep range. He's got a different variety of ways that he's been scoring. With the three ball, he can come off screens with the ball in his hands. He can catch and shoot. He can pull up. So many different ways to threaten opposition with his shooting, which leads to an insane level of shooting gravity. From what I've seen for Reed Sheppard in Kentucky, some people have touted that his teammates allow him to have that additional space on the floor. I would go the opposite way. Reed Sheppard's shooting gravity creates so much more space for his teammates. Like, you cannot play drop coverage against him. You cannot go under screen, because if you do, he's shooting up. He's making more than half of his three-pointers a game. You have to defend this guy super tight. That's going to lead to a lot of space for teammates. And at the NBA level, I actually think where Reed Sheppard is not going to be the best player on the floor, he's going to be open. He's going to have opportunities. And with that catch and shoot threat from three, there are going to be problems caused for opposition defenses. But on top of, having the three-point game, he can score on multiple levels here. He can score from three, as we've seen. He can hit in mid-range. He kind of opts not to use the mid-range very often, which I would say is a positive. If you watch the channel, if you watch me, I don't like the mid-range shot. There's specific circumstances that require it for sure. Can hit when necessary, but just didn't really take a lot from there. because the 3-ball's better. 3-pointers are worth more than 2s. And if you're hitting them, you could hit 3-pointers at a 33% clip, and that's likely more efficient than your mid-range shot. He's hitting his 3s at a 52% clip. Yeah, ignore the mid-range, shoot from 3. But like I said, can hit from mid-range when necessary, and on the inside despite his height. Has a degree of craftiness, has a degree of improvisation, I'll call it, at the rim. In manufacturing looks for himself. It's going to be difficult for him to finish above players of different sizes in the NBA, but for his finishing on the inside, has different ways to go about it. Has a floater game, can get to the rim and score. Mostly with his right, would need to develop the left a little bit more there, but he's crafty in manufacturing, looks for himself on the inside, though with bigger defenders, we'll kind of get to where some problems can arise. As a guard who may scale up as a point guard in the NBA, his playmaking is pretty good, especially in the open floor, especially in transition. Kentucky, with a lot of other ball-dominant guards, as I said, maybe didn't tap into his playmaking potential as a true point guard enough over the course of the season. If an NBA team were to do that, it could highlight and unlock some other aspects of his game that have remained a little bit hidden up until this point, but reads the game very well, plays within the flow of the offense. Ball doesn't stick in his hands here. Is happy to get his teammates involved here. You know, we saw with the 12.5 points per game despite the efficiency, like only 12.5 points per game. It's because he plays within the flow of the offense. You know, he's not a ball-dominant player here. He's going to take his shots when necessary. He's going to set up his teammates when necessary. That overall gives him some great decision-making on the floor to have the ball in his hands. Maybe not the most, but with a team like the Raptors that has other ball-dominant players like Emmanuel Quickley, like Scotty Barnes, even to a certain degree RJ Barrett, having a guy to play within the flow of the team might make sense for the Raptors to go this direction in the draft. On the defensive end of the floor, we saw with the defensive statistics here, like for in a way, his size kind of helps him here. He's low to the ground, and there are so many different settings where he can just snatch the ball away from you, out of your dribble, out of your pull-up, as you're going to the rim. 3.1 steals per game is absolutely nothing to sneeze at here. He has an adept sense on defense. He has amazing defensive instincts, which is leading to these steals and leading to these blocks. Off ball, if there's any criticism, it would come from his off-ball defense, but even then, that is not that bad. He is a good defender, especially for his size, but that is just the thing. When you're playing against bigger players, there could be some issues that arise defensively and offensively. So as we transition into the weakness, the number one thing we're going to talk about, of course, is the size. 6'3", not a lot of length to go with it. So, you know, at the NBA level, there's going to be some conversations about his impact and his ability to pressure the rim, for example. There's going to be some questions about his athleticism. Doesn't have that quick first step. Doesn't turn the corner very well on his drives to get to the rim. Again, he's kind of playing with the flow in the offense. Isn't trying to get his, but there just needs to be a bigger degree of threat sometimes that you would wonder if that's going to scale up for the NBA level very well, depending on what sort of role you have for the player. Absolutely, his size is going to hamper his ability to play defense. Because of his instincts, because of his sense, he can play maybe a little bit above his size, but he's so limited with his length and size that, you know, even though he's got the smarts to do it, there could still be some issues that arise for the team that chooses to draft him. And it's looking like he's going to be a pretty decently high lottery pick for the 2024 class. Definitely a lot of question marks associated with his size, athleticism going into the draft. Along with not having the best burst, the best size, his self-creation isn't tremendous. Uses his sense very well. Like you can tell, like he's just been a dog with his work ethic here. Great motor, great energy, great work ethic, and he's found all these great ways, despite his physical limitations, to create advantages for himself by using his body well, getting separation, using hezzies, stop and go, changing speeds, all these great ways to create looks for himself. Playing against more athletic defenders, that may not be there. Has decent handle, not a super tight handle, not the best crossovers. So at the next level in the NBA, you wonder where those shots are going to come from, especially maybe if there's some self-creation from the outside. But like I said, there wasn't even a high volume of mid-range shooting to begin with to give too many concerns about this aspect of his game. He's not super physical, and if I have to knock something else, didn't really get enough of movement shooting reps from him with Kentucky. Not to suggest that those won't be there. Perhaps it is like he's not getting that separation there, but if you're running some plays off ball for him, I'll highlight it here with the movement shooting. Though I feel as though if there's an NBA team working specifically on plays to get him open for three, there will be success there because he's just such a tremendous shooter. And has such a good sense for the game overall. So basically what we're seeing from Reed Sheppard is he's got all these outstanding tools as a basketball player. So many, just, I won't call it that, but like so many gifts as a player. He is so good. It's just, is he big enough to play in the NBA? Well, let's go to a player comparable here, and it's very difficult to find one with this sort of size to kind of compare with. But I think that the best comparison that I saw and I can think of here is Donte DiVincenzo. Combo guard, not super high usage, isn't really a point guard, isn't really a shooting guard, kind of like a 1.5 in a way. Not a 1, not a 2, but a 1.5. Good instincts defensively, can shoot the ball really well, can play within the flow of the offense, doesn't need to be ball dominant. These are all some great traits, and DiVincenzo, we're seeing with the Knicks how effective he can be in this sort of role here. Donte DiVincenzo is 6'4". He's only 1 inch taller. The difference will be the length. DiVincenzo's got a 6'6" wingspan. Reed Sheppard's got a 6'3" wingspan. That will be the difference, and that slight difference there could be what separates Reed Sheppard from being a super successful NBA player to maybe not getting the success that you would expect out of a lottery pick. So, is this the right pick for the Raptors? There is nothing to suggest that Reed Sheppard's shooting will not scale well to the NBA, and with shooting gravity like that, being able to knock down threes at that outrageous percentage, look, he's not going to keep it at 50% or higher, but all signs point towards a player is going to be an extremely efficient three-point shooter in the NBA. That's always going to have value, and there is enough tools defensively for him to maybe not get run off the floor and be a disruptor, be a bit of a pest on ball, has good point of attack defensive sense. I think there is reason to go with Reed Sheppard pretty early on in this draft. The size-related matters are going to be a concern, but he reads the game so well, he understands the game so well, that I think he will manipulate ways in order to be successful even amongst taller players, even amongst more physically gifted players in the NBA. Is this the right fit for the Raptors? That's where question marks can arise, because you've already got this sort of player, this sort of build of a player with Immanuel Quickley as this, he's not a 1, he's not a 2, he's more so a 1.5, and you're playing Immanuel Quickley at the 1 so that you don't have to sacrifice your size at the 2. Well, if you bring in Reed Sheppard, are you going to be playing him next to Immanuel Quickley? I don't mind this tandem point guard thing where, both players can play a bit off ball. They don't have to be super ball dominant. A lot of the ball handling reps can still go to Scotty Barnes, even a little bit to RJ Barrett as well. It's just how much of that size on defense are you going to be willing to sacrifice? I like a lot about Reed Sheppard's game, and I wouldn't mind drafting him if the Raptors do keep their top 6 pick for the 2024 draft class. However, there are some concerns on my end about how this team is going to project going forward with 2 players who are not the biggest in the guard positions, and defensively, if he is going to get picked on by opposition teams, if the Raptors can afford to sacrifice the size there. The way the NBA is trending, it's all about size and skill. The Raptors were a bit ahead of the curve on that in previous years with the size Bobby Webs are trying to build around all of these switchable two-way forwards. The difference is nowadays these players are a whole lot more skilled. These players have much better pedigree shooting from the outside. This is the way the NBA is kind of trending. Do you fall a little bit behind that curve and going with a player like Reed Sheppard? Like I said, there was a lot to like with the player. Like I said, with his incredible basketball sense and floor spacing, I think there will be success in the NBA. I'd be happy to go with him. I'd be surprised if when the Raptors are selecting, they do have a top 6 pick. I'd be surprised if there wasn't a player I preferred in that spot. If I have a pick in the 10, 11, 12 range and Reed Sheppard's available, this is a pretty surefire selection. In the top 6, I'm not so sure if that's the best position to take him, though I am a fan of the player. But what do you make of Reed Sheppard? Do you think he will scale up well for the NBA despite his size? Give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. That'll do it for me for today. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel if you want more Raptors content. I'll see you on Sunday for a draft lottery watch along. Don't miss out for anything on amateur sports. I'll see you again next time for another video.